Welcome to this first video of how to upcycle household items to create some fabulous containers for your next flower arrangement. For project number 1, I'm going to be converting a can of tomatoes into a farmhouse chic enamel looking pot. For this project you'll need a tin can. It can be any size. My preference is one with a ring pull. Whatever can you use, make sure you're really careful about the cut edge. You don't want to be cutting yourself. You'll need some white spirit to take off the last of the gluey tack from the paper label. And the PVA glue, that's for priming the surface of your cans so that your paint will adhere. I'm going to be using Dulux paint. It's the only one I had to hand. Perhaps you might have some spray paint instead. You'll also need a wooden spoon or a stick to stir your paint to make sure it's a consistent texture, and a paintbrush. I've got some emergency kitchen towel just in case, a piece of string, and these are ring pulls from the top of drinks cans. And last of all, my glue gun or any other strong glue. For this project I've chosen to use a can of chopped tomatoes with the ring pull opening, so I don't have to have the sharp edge when I cut round using a can opener. But I will say you need to be extra careful because there still is quite a sharp edge around the top of the can, so remember that you're doing something that's a decorative item, not a play item, and if you've got young children around, just be aware that this edge might cut. So I've soaked the label off and then left with this sticky bit at the top, so I'm going to use a bit of white spirit on the kitchen towel and see if I can get rid of that. So it's almost like taking nail polish off. You need to let it soak in a little bit and use your nails to scrape away, or you could get a knife out and do this. I'm going to let this dry and then read the instructions on the back of my can of paint. I've chosen Dulux Once Satin in pure brilliant white, purely because it's what I had to hand. Just making sure you read the label carefully. And it says here, if painting on a bare surface, apply an appropriate primer. So I don't have the trade name primer. What I'm going to use is some slightly watered down PVA glue. I've got a small amount of water in my mug, and then the PVA multi-purpose adhesive and sealer, which does actually say on the can that it primes. Dribble a bit of that into the mug. And mix it together with a paintbrush. And get painting. A tiny bit inside as well, just the top bit. And leave that to dry. So I'll leave those to dry and come back and add a layer of paint. My PVA glue has now dried. It's got a slight tackiness to it, so I'm going to get on with the painting stage next. So give my paint a shake. I'm using my floristry scissors to open the can. And it just needs a stir, so I've got an old wooden spoon that I use for this. I'll wipe off the excess paint onto a piece of kitchen towel. I was searching for my paintbrush and I've just remembered I washed it out after adding the PVA glue. You just need to make sure that you whack off as much of the moisture as possible. So a tiny bit of paint on the tip of the brush and splosh it on. Making sure as you hold the can like this that you're not digging in with that cut edge. You may decide you want to wear gloves or take a bit of kitchen towel just to protect your hands. So that's the outside done. It will need a second coat. I'm just going to go around the rim and down inside the pot just a tiny bit. So that's all done, so I'll leave that to dry. Now when you've finished, you don't want to be washing your brush up every time in between coats. So what I like to do is wrap my paintbrush up in a really tight fitting wrap of cling film. I will have to wash my hands though. It's day 2 now on my Operation Tin Can. So this has had 2 coats and I decided not to put a second coat on the inside while I was working on the outside coat because it was just getting too sticky. So my job for this morning is to just paint the inside couple of centimetres just so that when you get a glimpse inside the tin can when it's finished you don't see the bare metal inside. And then when I've done that I'll be ready for the next stage. When you're happy with your paint coverage, the next job is to take the ring pulls from your drinks cans and glue them on, and that's going to become the hinge area for creating a decorative handle. Add a dab of hot glue. Put the ring pull on so that the hole at the top is lying just above the rim of your container. And then do the same thing diagonally opposite. Hold it in place for a few minutes until it's dry. I'm using my hot glue gun because that's the only glue I've got available at the moment. The little handle I'm going to create is going to be for decorative purposes only. It won't be load bearing. If you want a stronger hold, you'll need to use some glue that's suitable for fixing metal to metal. The next job is to add in my piece of string as a little decorative handle. I fold my string in half, thread it through one side and then through the other. Tie a knot there so it doesn't slip through. Decide how long you want the handle and tie another knot on the other side. And when you're happy with that, tighten the knot off and trim away the excess string. I'm going to cut through the loop on this side so the two ends match. And there's your finished can, all ready for flowers, or perhaps even a potted herb. Although it does look like a bucket, I'm not going to hold it up by the handle because I'm not convinced the hot glue gun fixings here are going to be strong enough. And if you want to change things up a bit, take off the string and make a handle out of something else. I've decided to decorate my tin can, taking inspiration from the enamel mug that I had my ring pulls in. I'm using a blue Sharpie pen to create the distinctive blue rim that you see on enamelware. And when the top's done, I'm doing a rim around the base as well. Because I'd used satin wood gloss on my tin can, I felt that the glossy surface wasn't making the blue line distinctive enough. So here you see me using a tiny bit of blue acrylic paint to give a denser coverage. Here I'm going through the top rim of the can as well, just to give a really solid blue line. When I was happy with the top rim, I turned the can over and painted another ring around the base. My tin can is now taking on a real farmhouse style to it, so I've decided to add a decal which says fresh cut flowers. I'm using the transfer tape and I'm going to position this onto my can and rub over it with a scraper and then peel off the backing paper to complete the look. Fingers crossed the backing paper will peel off smoothly, but in the event any of the lettering lifts, you can go back and rub it down again. Looking good, isn't it? I'm really pleased with the way that lettering has worked out. And if you don't have access to this kind of sticker, you could always try freehand writing on the side if you can and adding a little message to it. Now, since working on this first can, I've found some red wire which I think would make a really good firm handle that may well stay more upright. So I'm going to have a go at using the wire to create a handle, and I've also got another way of adding in these little tabs at the side, the little hinges that hold the handle in place. So the wire I'm going to use is this red flexible aluminium wire. I'm going to cut off enough to make a looped handle. The next thing I need to do is add it onto my ring pulls. So what I'll do is thread it through the hole, bend the wire over. I've probably got about 5 centimetres of wire standing up there, and then back on itself and twist round as neatly as I can. I don't know if you can see that. And then the same with the other side. So thread it through, bend over about 5 centimetres, and then twist round. So you can see they're firmly fixed on with the little ring pulls dangling down at the ends. Before I attach my handles onto my tin can, I thought I'd work with this red theme. So what I have done here is I've taken some masking tape and I've masked off the top rim and the bottom rim so that when I add my acrylic paint, I can work with a much neater line. So as before, squirt a tiny bit of the red paint into a pot, take my paintbrush and get painting. And because I've got the masking tape there, I don't need to be so careful and I can cover the area quite quickly. There's top edge done, and I'll just go through that middle rim as well. Then move on to the bottom edge. When the paint is dry, gently peel off the masking tape. Next job is to take some felt. So luckily I had some red felt in my crafting drawers. I've got a small offcut here. I'm going to cut a rectangular piece and then cut that in half. And glue that onto my can with my hot glue gun. I'm hoping, because these are fabricy, that they'll stick successfully to the tin can, and then the bottle top will stick successfully to the piece of felt. Dab of glue on the side. And do the same thing on the other side of the can. So that went there, so about here. And then a dab of glue on here, and then add the ring pull on top. And the same on the other side. Just hold that in place until the glue dries. Here are my finished cans. First of all, the string handle with the metal ring pull attached straight on to the can with hot glue gun. And then my red can with a little pad of felt, which I think is going to give a much stronger fixing for that. I feel much more confident about suspending this one from my finger. Next job, add flowers. Before you add flowers to your container, you'll just need to have a think about the materials you've used to decorate it, and are they going to withstand the can being washed. I know that the acrylic paint here is probably going to rub off quite quickly in water, and also my decal here as well. Although it can cope with the light sponge over, it won't withstand being washed. And because of that, I'm going to put a small jam jar of water inside the cans. So it's the jam jar I wash rather than the can itself. I think this is a jar of pesto sauce, so it's just the right size, it's not going to show. And because I'm embracing the farmhouse chic look of these cans with a enamelware look, I'm going to use some flowers I've foraged from my garden and a few country walks lately. This is green aconite. Recut the stems, and any side shoots are going to be submerged in the water, and arrange them in a really casual, natural style. Cow parsley. I've even got some grasses from an area of lawn that hasn't been mown recently. A little bit of honesty here, so the flowers have gone over and you can just see the seeds beginning to develop in these pods. And continue on until you've got a little posy arrangement that you're happy with. So you can arrange direct into your can or make a little posy in your hand first. Trim all your stems to the same length. And there we have the finished project. 2 upcycled cans with a very informal posy of wildflowers in each of them. I do hope you enjoyed the video, and I can't wait to see your upcycled tin cans and what flowers you decide to put in them. So don't forget to post me a photo either in my Facebook group or tag me on Instagram. You'll find me at flowerstart with an underscore at the end, and use the hashtag flowerstart. Let's compare notes.